Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to dive into a topic that's crucial for anyone working with public-private partnerships, Aasb 1059 service concession arrangements. Let's start with the big picture. The title of this presentation is Beyond the Contract, Understanding Aasb 1059. This standard isn't about every single contract a company signs. It's a very specific rulebook for a particular type of public-private partnership called a service concession arrangement. Think of it this way: a public sector body, like a government or a council, contracts a private company to build, operate, and maintain a public asset. A great example would be a toll road, a hospital, or even a water treatment plant. The key thing to remember is that the private company, or the operator, doesn't actually own the asset. They have the right to use it for a set period to provide a service and earn money. Now, why did we even need this new rule? Before Aasb 1059 came along, there was no single, consistent way to account for these arrangements. Companies were all doing their own thing. Some would keep these massive projects completely off their balance sheet, while others would use inconsistent methods. This created a major transparency problem. If you're an investor trying to compare two companies, one that reported its concessions on the balance sheet and one that didn't, you simply couldn't get an accurate picture of their financial health. I'd like to get your thoughts on this. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being extremely important, how important do you think it is for investors to have consistent financial reporting across different companies? Type your answer in the comments. So what's the one rule that guides them all? The core principle is that if you're the operator, you must recognize a financial asset or an intangible asset on your balance sheet, along with a corresponding liability. Let's use the toll road analogy to make this clear. The private operator builds the road, but the government still owns it. The operator's compensation comes from the right to collect tolls from drivers for, say, 20 years. That right to collect future cash flows is a valuable asset that needs to be recognized on the balance sheet. And the obligation to provide that service is a liability. So, is it a financial asset or an intangible asset? This is a crucial distinction. It all comes down to who bears the risk. You recognize a financial asset if the operator has an unconditional right to receive cash from the government. This is a guaranteed payment, regardless of how many cars use the road. You recognize an intangible asset if the operator's right to receive cash is based on the usage of the service by the public. For our toll road, this means the revenue depends on the number of drivers. The operator bears the risk of low usage. Both the asset and the liability are initially measured at their fair value. So, thinking back to our toll bridge example, would the operator typically recognize a financial asset or an intangible asset? And why? Type your answers in the comments. Let's quickly review the impact this has on the financial statements. This is where the standard's transparency benefits really show up. On the balance sheet, both assets and liabilities increase. The new financial or intangible asset is recognized, along with the liability for the service obligation. This gives a much more complete picture of the company's financial position. On the income statement, the revenue and expenses are now clearly defined and consistent, which makes it easier for stakeholders to understand the company's performance. Ultimately, Aasb 1059 gives us a more accurate and holistic view of a company's true assets, liabilities, and obligations related to these major public-private partnerships. Thank you for your time and participation. I'll open the floor now for any questions you might have about Aasb 1059 or its implications.